Okay, everybody. Well, first and foremost, welcome. Greetings to you from the southern tip of the continent of Africa. I'm joined by two of my beloveds who I'll introduce to you very soon. But without further ado, just to wish you all a very, very happy Mother's Day. I hope you can hear me, everybody. Whether you are son, daughter, mother, grandmother, there may even be some great grandmothers amongst us. This service is in honor of you. You have seen a couple of my other services, will be familiar with Zebada January. Her lineage is Khoi, the indigenous peoples of the Western Cape of South Africa. Her last name, January, was given to her ancestors during the time of slavery and subjugation by the Dutch colonizers. It would likely have referred to the calendar month that they were either enslaved or sold. And Zebada is continuing the legacy of her father, a Khoi leader and king, as they were known, of her people, and she's dedicated to bringing healing, reconciliation, and reclamation of a lost past to her peoples and to future generations. Zebada, thank you for joining us today, and happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, Pippa, and happy Mother's Day to everybody. And thank you for allowing me in your space. A few weeks ago, I listened to a sermon that was presented by Reverend Pippa Jones. I was captivated by a reference she made from the Christian sacred scripture. So before I continue, in the sermon, Pippa emphasized the importance that certain consideration should be given when you read ancient scripts, such as the original language, translation, the space of that person when they read the script. I believe that the script was written initially in Hebrew, and of course, it was misinterpreted and used for the benefit of creating power for man. I believe it was also maybe used to divide and to conquer, to create segregation amongst all humans, Mother Earth, and all that is within. So this specific reference was taken from the book of Genesis, where an instruction or command was given by the divine to humankind. I believe that this instruction was even given before religion was established. So what captured me was the following phrase, the following command, or the following instruction. The divine used the following words, which was misinterpreted. Custodians, go out into the world and cultivate relationship with those opposite than you. This is not just an instruction. Here the divine gave humankind titleship, responsibility of caring for Mother Earth and all that is within her, and opposed to what happened following that instruction. The title custodian is the essence of indigeneity. My ancestors, although it was said that they had no spirituality or religion, They honored and they cultivated the role of being a custodian long before religion was ever established. Unfortunately, the indigenous way of life was never acknowledged, it was never respected in the ever-evolving world of oppression, apartheid, religious segregation, colonialism, and all other elements that divided and conquered. Unfortunately, like myself and about 7 generations behind me, could never ever experience the freedom in life as an indigenous person. Our connectedness to our land, our tradition, our language was taken away from us. And timelessly, we drifted away from our truth and our connection to Mother. My father, as Papa previously said, Zebada January, he fought hard for indigenous rights, recognition of custodianship, and freedom. My dad passed away about 2 years ago without that reconciliation. So for me currently, I am in a space of self-discovery, deep listening and learning. And that is why that phrase captured me when Papa said, custodians go out into the world and cultivate relationship with those opposite than you. And I thought to myself, but even before religion was established, my people were already custodians. We carried out and we honored the role that we were blessed with. Yeah. So as I said, for me, I'm in a path of self-discovery. I'm learning a lot about myself, my connection to land, my connection to my tradition. And what I can tell you is that on my journey, I have discovered that you will never be able to break a bond between a mother and a child. And that holds true. The same, you will never be able to break physically the ties between natural intuition of belonging to land and the indigenous person, custodian. Mother Earth, our source of life, our source of safety, health, nourishment. Over millennia, she witnessed the birth, she witnessed love, she witnessed growth. But at the same time, she also witnessed death, trauma, humiliation, tragedy. She experienced imbalances, neglect, greed, oppression. So despite all this heaviness Mother endured, she continues to protect, soothe, console, and cradle us. For example, on your lowest day, on your lowest day, when you go take a barefoot walk on the beach, or you just go walk close to nature or stand close to nature, Mother immediately removes that weight, leaving you light. She takes on that heaviness onto herself. This is how selfless her love is for us. With grace and eloquence and humility, she has fulfilled this role over and over and over and over. And in spite of the children not honoring their title of custodians, Mother, the flora, the animal kingdom, from the biggest to the smallest, fulfilled the commandment of the divine. At all odds, they try the utmost to maintain symbiosis for our survival. Scary part is that I'm not sure, I can't predict how long she will able to maintain this kind of situation that she's been going through all along. So to end off, I would like to do an acknowledgement of land by combining and creating a combination of everybody globally. So first and foremost, as Pippa said, I have the privilege of being born from a Khoi bloodline and on the soil of my ancestors, and from receiving my traditional history from my father. I would like to honor Mother and the global indigenous peoples by us pausing and acknowledging the land on which we are living on today. I would also like us to acknowledge the rich and complex global history, to pay tribute to the original custodians and to Mother. Indigenous peoples have a very unique and spiritual connection to Mother. As an indigenous people, we don't own the land. We belong to the land. Mother Earth is sacred. Indigenous peoples respect the soil as much as the stars, the mountains, the winds, the storms. We respect every organism of this land, held together by Mother. The sacredness of Mother transcends to a divine power, a power bigger than man. Mother is a divine gift. Indigenous peoples are true believers of preserving divine gifts. We try our utmost to live symbiotically with the utmost respect for Mother. I honor and respect the global diversity. So no matter your heritage, your religion, your spirituality, your tradition, your gender orientation, we are all connected to Mother. We are all her children, and we are all custodians. As we navigate and receive the Mother's blessings daily, may we never, never, never forget our title as custodians. Let us do this in honor of Mother and for our past, present, and emerging generations. Thank you, Gangans.
Gangan Zebada. Gangans is in the original Khoi language, which means thank you. Thank you, Zebada. You may all remember Ann Paton from our Ramadan service. She and her husband Nick sang Donna Nobis Pacem, Give Us Peace. Anne is my treasured friend, my soul sister, and an integral member of our Cape Town community. She is a counselor and does much of her work around trauma, including her work with refugees. And she's a spiritual guide and support to so many, including me. And thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Pippa. It's really a joy to be here. So thank you for the invitation. And just coming off that beautiful song, I feel like I can just go straight into this with aplomb, because it feels like such a beautiful song to start. I wanted to first and foremost kind of mention the idea of mother, which of course we're saying Happy Mother's Day. And for many, it's not always a Happy Mother's Day. What does mother mean? There's a complication. There can be issues. There's shadow and light around a mother, or the mothering role. And we just want to acknowledge that We're not all mothers. We don't all enjoy our mothers fully. And yet we might also love and cherish them. So there's a real full range there that I want to just mention. And I want to just notice that range. The first and central thing that we look at our mother around is thank you for the gift of life. The very central thing we can all thank a person. If that's the only thing we can thank the mother for, then it's at least thank you for the gift of life. And that's the starting point. And then we have the range all the way across of life, and then potentially nurture, potentially love, potentially engagement that has been helpful and loving and gone well. And then potentially the shadow side, which has been more complex or difficult. So one of the things when I ever think about the mother role and the parent role is really setting what is the intention of that person. Was that the intention of the mother or your mother to be, was it for the good? And I think that's a very key issue, because sometimes things don't unfold in the way that we would wish, or in my case, I chose a school for my daughter and then it didn't turn out to be a good school, but everything about my intention was carefully moved in the direction of wanting the best for her in that school. And then you have to work in retrospect to what the reactions were. So sometimes we're looking at what is the intention. The intention has to be held right at the forefront of whatever we're looking at in terms of our mother. Was our mother for the good, for our good? And usually they are. Usually there's a sense of I want to give the good. And then we notice what they aren't able to pass on. Sometimes there's a feeling of there's a limit of some sort that is, I didn't know, so I can't teach it. And here comes in the sort of sense of what I would like to sort of mention mostly today is the invitation around Mother's Day is to really do our work of our generation, whatever generation that is, to do the work as we pass on. And essentially, we all have some mothering skills, some ability within our community, our way of nurturing and loving around us. And the work, the call to the work of whatever we're needing to do, the invitation to the work, so that we can help form the flow of life from our lineage right the way through. We can do whatever work's needed here in order to pass on something that will continue a good life flow to the next generations as they move through in our communities, in our own line. And so just really engaging in that idea. My mother was a refugee. She came from France. She left at the age of 11, had to flee overnight. She literally had to pick up a suitcase and they all literally ran. And she went to Portugal, where they got on, they were organizing the ships to come and fetch the refugees. And they were intending to go to Canada. Their intention was, let's try and get there. And the boat that went to Canada was full, so they couldn't go. And that boat was torpedoed as it went outside the kind of line of engagement. And then they caught the next boat. They got onto the next boat, which came down to what was then Lorenzo Marques in Mozambique, and now Maputo, and they caught a train into Johannesburg in South Africa. And so her line came down to the southern tip of Africa. And that's how I ended up here from that side. My mother found that when she talks about it, it was a little adventure. It was something my mom made it fun. We were on a boat. It felt like it wasn't easy. The seismic change in her life and moving to a new culture, she couldn't go to the place of how difficult that was. So sometimes the work is too big for the generation that experiences it. So I remember as a little girl feeling like the refugee, which is such a strange thing, but I had the sense of, do I belong here? Where am I from? And I used to ask my friends who I was connected to and really engaged with, am I part of this group? And they said, of course you are. And I realized only later that I was almost feeling or sensing the work that my mother hadn't been able to do. So we hold that really compassionately. She wasn't able to do it. And then it becomes the generations afterward to try and resolve. So it's been a quest of how do I do the work of my generation and perhaps the generations behind me. And with that, I've learned a huge amount, and there's been a real movement. But this ability to feel in almost something that was not mine, what's my burden, what's her burden, and feeling her burden is really something that science has caught up with. There was an experiment by a man called Brian Dias, And he did this experiment with mice, where they really horribly, they mildly electrocuted the feet of the mice to get a sort of response of a trauma response, a kind of reaction of survival. And at the same time, they puffed in the smell of cherry blossom so that there was an association with cherry blossom. And they then bred those mice with that trauma embedded in them. And they only did it about 3 times for that to be embedded in the mice. The generations that were sensitive to the smell of cherry blossom were 3 or 4 generations. The mice were still responsive to the cherry blossom smell. But if that took that same group of mice and they reorientated the trauma that had happened and linked it to food, so cherry blossom suddenly was associated with food, no trauma gets passed down the line, even though that line experienced trauma. So we noticed that if we do the work of trauma, we manage to take what is almost like, I always see it as like flailing electricity. It's almost like something that agitates your system. And if you're doing the work of the processing of whatever's happening symbolically or the psyche, you're processing it here and then it affects the body, and you're working with the body, so it affects the psyche and the spirit. And with that work, you're bringing it closer and closer, and you kind of integrate it, and it feels like it kind of weaves into you. And then it settles. And in that place of weaving and settling, you don't pass something forward. And this beautiful ability to do it at any age. I had a client who was 76, I think, when she first came, or 77. And by the time she died 3 years later, there was just a little move in her line. She had resolved things, worked with things, wrestled with things that really settled something in the way it unfolded for her children and grandchildren. So the call is to do the work wherever we are. It'll always ripple back into the family. And this is such a beautiful idea, because it affects you, but it affects osmotically your whole line if you're doing the work. So that as I finish off, it's really is that feeling of the words that are said by this lovely poet called Jennifer Wellwood. And she said, each condition that I flee from pursues me, and each condition I welcome transforms me. So the sense of turning gently with compassion, always with the compassion, towards what suffering is in the line, and working with it and allowing it to integrate and a new life to flow through, not only you, but to the next generations. And that's the call. And once you do that, it'll be affecting you. You do your work, it affects your family and your community, it affects the town, it affects the city, it affects the country. It has the feeling of, it has this movement of really having a big effect if we're all doing our work. So that's the ending. Each condition that I flee from pursues me, and each condition I welcome transforms me. Thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you. And before we move to the next part, I wanted to take a few moments just to reflect on something that you started with, Anne, which I feel would be a good thing for us to briefly meditate on. And that is, thank you for the gift of life. And what I would love to do, everybody, is if you find yourself in a place that feels comfortable, I'd like to do it in 3 stages. I'd like you to pause for a moment and really bring into your consciousness those mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, those down your mother's line, those who've been part of your story and your family and your community. And we titled this service An Honoring of the Mother. And I'd like to take just a few moments, and we're going to honor all those mothers, great-grandmothers, grandmothers, stepmothers that have been before us and contributed. And we'll breathe in, and as we breathe out, let's say, thank you for the gift of life. So let's breathe in together. and out. Thank you for the gift of life. And now to honor all of those who represent the present. Your children, your children's children, those who are around you that have become your family, immediate or extended, those who are in your now. Bring them to mind. Young mothers, older mothers, single mothers, whoever they may be. Let's once again breathe in, and as we do, feel them very much in our presence and honor them. And as we breathe out, thank you for the gift of life. And now to honor the generations that are to come. Those that we can't even imagine yet, whose names maybe we'll never know. Perhaps you know mothers who are pregnant, expecting, have just found out. Let's hold with compassion and love and cherishing those mothers who will bring new life into this world. Mothers from your line, mothers from your family, mothers from your community. And let us take in one last big deep breath. And breathe out. Thank you for the gift of life. And thank you all. Terry is very kindly going to do the reading today. Terry, blessings upon you and happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. To you as well, to everyone. The reading is from Dwellings, A Spiritual History of the Living World by Linda Hogan. Tonight I walk. I am watching the sky. I think of the people who came before me and how they knew the placement of stars in the sky. Watched the moving sun long and hard enough to witness how a certain angle of light touched a stone only once a year. Without written records, they knew the gods of every night, the small, fine details of the world around them, and of immensity above them. Walking, I can almost hear the redwoods beating, and the oceans are above me here, rolling clouds, heavy and dark, considering snow. On the dry red road, I pass the place of the sunflower, that dark and secret location where creation took place. I wonder if it will return this summer, if it will multiply and move up to the other strand of flowers in a territorial struggle. It's winter and there is smoke from the fires. The square lighted window of houses are fogging over. It is a world of elemental attention, of all things working together, listening to what speaks in the blood. Whichever road I follow, I walk in the land of many gods, and they love and eat one another. Walking, I am listening to a deeper way. Suddenly, all of my ancestors are behind me. Be still, they say. Watch and listen. You are the result of the love of thousands.
And in closing today, if I can leave with you nothing else, may you remember those words. May they echo through your heart and your soul, especially on days that are challenging, lonely, confusing, that you are the result of the love of thousands. And in the West, as we know, and as we've been discovering in many of our different paths, many of us have lost our connectedness to our sense of ancestral lines. Western philosophy has tended mostly to center around the I. But as you know from my own life's journey, my own path, those teachers that I've been very blessed with, I think firstly of the Maoris in New Zealand, who were my first spiritual teachers. And they understand themselves to be in a constant line of 7 behind and 7 before. And that is how they move and have their being, always knowing that they're one of a long chain. And the Aboriginal people from Australia, they do everything in consultation with their ancestors. And for them, it's not just their parents and grandparents and generations before, but also rock, tree, lizard, sky, water, fish, snake, and flower. They know that they are utterly and inextricably connected. And they too know that it is the mother energy that runs like that snake. It's what they call in their language the dreaming, the mother, the great creator of us all. And you may have heard me mention her name a couple of times. Sister Letta from KwaZulu-Natal here in South Africa. She was a remarkable human being and really piqued my curiosity because she was a Catholic nun, yet she was also a Zulu woman. And she was able to blend those two, what would look like completely opposite traditions. And as Zebada reminded us earlier, that in a way that's what we're supposed to do, is to seek out that which is so different from us. And she blended them so perfectly. She had such an impact on my life, despite the very short amount of time that we had to get to know one another. Sadly, she died. I think I'd mentioned this to you before. She died late last year. I was looking through my old messages with her, and I took note of a message that she left me via WhatsApp. And I think that it says it all, because She had an understanding of that ancestral line that blended, as I said, with her understanding of her Catholic faith. And she said, and I quote, "My cousin and I had a weekend in prayer with our ancestors. It rained most of the time. When we sat around an ant heap, I recalled the words that the grass blade said. The wind is the director of life. Bend with us and do not resist." And I couldn't decide which part of the message I loved the most. The idea of them sitting around an anthill in a circle in the rain. The idea that for them, it was perfectly natural to be in prayer with ancestors that they couldn't see or we couldn't see on this earthly plane, yet they were as present to each other as we are to each other today. Or was it the message about the bending and not resisting? I will treasure that message forever. One of the gifts of WhatsApp. And as Anne has said, we in this long line, we are the turning points. And literally the buck stops with us. And as a dear friend reminded me very recently, the call in our lives is to mother ourselves with compassion and acceptance. That we are who we are, that what happened has happened, but with compassion and forgiveness and acceptance, we can heal, we can integrate, we can start that new line again. Our mothers and their mother did what they could with what they had. And let me finish with a poem that was sent today. It was on a WhatsApp group, and I know that Anne is on the same WhatsApp group. So, Anne, I'm sure that you loved it as much as I did. And I just condensed it slightly for today because I thought it was so perfect. It goes something like this. I am the son and daughter of a daughter. Who is the daughter of a daughter? Who is also the daughter of a daughter? Some of us are mothers, but all of us are sons and daughters, all birthed through lines that weave back to the first mother, all connected from the very beginning, all connected in the now. And it goes on to say this, and I'll close with this. The next time you see another woman, look her in the eyes and see the ancestral lines, the lines of women that lead back to you. Where are we going, mother? And how will we get there, brother and sister? By staying connected and allowing for difference. For we are each one the sons and daughters of the one mother. And, as I said, and so beautifully read by Terry, the result of the love of thousands. Thank you.
If you like this video, please like us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click on the bell to be notified whenever we post a new video. Thank you.